So undoubtedly, the chapter of my new book, Worshiptainment, that is causing the most controversy or at least discussion is the chapter on music. Now, that's not entirely unexpected because we've been in the worship wars now for several decades where we've been arguing about hymns versus contemporary songs and so forth. And in my chapter, I'm actually doing something a little bit different than that. I'm actually recommending a practice that's far older than either hymns or contemporary praise songs, and that would be the practice of singing the Psalms. Now, in the Reformed tradition, especially in Presbyterian tradition, singing the Psalms is something that we've been doing for centuries, and actually Christians have been doing this for millennia. But it's not so familiar today to a lot of contemporary churches and modern churches. And so in my recent discussion with Keith Foskey over on his awesome channel, You're Calvinist, we began talking about music, especially from this chapter of my book, Worshiptainment, as we're discussing the new book. And Keith asked me a really great question that I wanted to sort of recapture today, with apologies to those who've already seen the entire interview over on his channel. He asked me, how is it that we could faithfully begin to incorporate the Psalms into our worship services, assuming that that practice is a little bit foreign to us and we've never really done that before? So what I want to do is I want to click over to that interview. I'm going to jump ahead to about the 40th minute, and we're going to watch a little bit of this together. And I want to share some of my answer, and then I want to come back and say a few more things about how to sing the Psalms in your church. So let's listen to the discussion.
I were going to want to incorporate more Psalms, and this is the question I wanted to ask you, and wanted to do so in a way that was congregationally powerful and relevant and helpful, useful. I don't even know if I'm using the right terms, but what resources and recommendations would you say here's the direction I would go if you were giving me that advice, and to anyone who might be
doing. Can I go on a rant for just a minute?
The floor is yours.
Okay. All right. So in the book, I discuss three kinds of churches as it relates to psalm singing. You have your exclusive psalm singers. Those would be those churches, and there's very few of them. Most of them are in the RPCNA denomination that only sing the Psalms. They are exclusive psalm singers. That's all they sing. They don't do hymns. They don't do praise songs. They don't do worship anthems. It's just the Psalms. Then you have churches like ours, Gospel Fellowship PCA. We would be an inclusive psalm singing congregation, meaning that we sing psalms, hymns, and some spiritual songs, which are loosely praise choruses. Okay. And then you have the third category, and this is the category that I don't want you to be in, and that would be the excluded psalmody group. And that would be those churches that do everything but the Psalms. They do not sing the Psalms at all. I think that's a real problem. So I didn't really discover psalm singing, but for maybe 10 years ago, psalm singing kind of was introduced into my life, and I was blown away by the concept. So what psalm singing is, and let me just describe the process. You take the Psalms of the Hebrew Old Testament, and obviously they have to be translated into the language of the singer, which for us is going to be English. But even still, you can't just take up your King James Bible or your ESV, take it out and try to start singing it, because it's not written in meter. Meter is the cadence that the words follow after. And all good songs, hymns, and spiritual songs have some kind of a meter or a cadence or a rhythm to them, right? So what you have is a Psalter like this one that I have right behind me. This is essentially a hymnal, in that it's a book filled with songs. If you open it up, there's music inside, but all of the contents are the 150 Psalms of the Old Testament that have been translated into English and then put into rhyme and meter so that you can very naturally and easily sing them. Now, this is my favorite Psalter right here. This is produced by Crown and Covenant Publications. It's called Psalms for Worship. And one of the reasons this is a brilliant Psalter is because not only are the Psalms faithfully rendered and translated and put into meter and rhyme so that you can sing them, but this particular Psalter did something very wise in that it used the tunes that most Christians already are familiar with. So if you grew up singing hymns at all, your Amazing Grace or your Be Thou My Vision or Oh for a Thousand Tongues to Sing, you name a hymn, that hymn has a tune, right? And so in this Psalter, they were very careful to use the kinds of tunes that congregations know. Almost immediately, they just know, oh, I know that tune. They may have never sung that psalm before, but when they know the tune, then it's easy to begin singing that particular psalm. Okay, so let me pick it up from here and just explain a little bit more about that process. So yesterday I did another podcast with a guy who is reformed in terms of his theology, but his church is non-denominational. And I asked him point blank, I said, have you ever sung the Psalms before in your church? And his answer was no. And so I thought to myself, well, okay, so apparently we still need to do a little bit of basic explanation as to how this works. And here's why. Because a lot of churches today, they don't even have hymnals. And so they're not used to even singing the music on the sheet in the book. They're used to just singing the music on the screen as the band performs or plays for them. So what I thought I'd do right now is show you a little bit more about how a Psalter actually works, and then I'm going to recommend a couple of really cool resources for that. So let me flip over here, if I can, and show you a couple pictures. Now, I apologize, my photography is not great, but this is a hymn, okay? So this is what you would see if you opened up a regular hymnal like this one right here, the Trinity hymnal. This is what we use in the PCA. In my view, it's one of the greatest hymnals of all time. And this is the hymn called "Oh, for a Thousand Tongues to Sing." It's number 164, and you can see here that it has 4 verses, and then there's 2 more, 5 and 6 down here. Now, if you're not familiar with music and you can't read music, one of the things that you do need to know is down here in the bottom corner, you have the tune to that particular song, and you have the meter to that song, which is basically the pace or the cadence, or for lack of a better term, something like the beat to the song, okay? And what's really great about the Psalter, the blue Psalter that I've been recommending called the Book of Psalms for Worship, here it is one more time, I've already been showing it to you on the screen, is that it intentionally incorporates many of the tunes that you already know. So notice here down in the bottom, we have the same tune. It's called Asmon, and this is to common meter CM, which again is like its beat or its cadence or the pace of the song. So you have exactly the same tune to "Oh, for a Thousand Tongues to Sing, but this time, notice here, you're singing Psalm 133, version A. Now this A here indicates that there are a couple of versions for Psalm 133. If you want to use a different tune, there's a couple of other different options. But you're going to be singing the words from Psalm 133. So this is awesome. If you want to sing the Bible right back to the Lord, then a Psalter is designed for you to do that with many, many tunes that you already know. Now, here's something cool that just came out. So not only does Crown and Covenant have the blue Psalter, the Book of Psalms for Worship, okay, but now, just the other day, and I think I'm breaking some news here, these new mini Psalters literally just came out. I think I've got the first couple in the whole world because they literally just sent these to me immediately when they came right off of the press. So these mini Psalters right here, which I'm going to post a link in the description of this video if you want to get these, they are exactly the same as the pagination of the blue Psalter, which is great because now you can take these for your private devotions, for your family devotions. You can use it on travel. You could take it to the hospital and sing psalms with people. So now we've got not only the full-size Psalter, which you can have in your pews, but you can have the mini Psalters as well. Now, one more thing I have to tell you about, which is awesome, is there is an app for this on your phone. So here's that same psalm, Psalm 133a, and this is a screenshot of what the app looks like. It's very simple. It just has the music and it has the words to the psalm. But down here, you can play it and it'll play the tune so you can be like, oh yeah, okay, I know that tune. Or if you're going to use it for worship later on, you can select which tune you want to use. And if you want to hit the star button, then it adds it to your favorites. So again, this is just a screenshot here, but it has all of the 150 Psalms with multiple versions. Notice that Psalm 1 has 2 different versions, A and B. Same thing with Psalm 2 has 4 different options for you for Psalm 2. Okay, so you can pick different tunes. And if this were my phone and not just a screenshot, then you could toggle this down right here and you slide to whatever psalm you want to pick, and you can add it to your favorites, so you can listen to it, you can preview it, make sure you're selecting the right one for worship. Now, I bring all that up because I do think that psalm singing is a marvelous way to make your worship services more biblical, which is in fact what I've been arguing this entire time, especially in my chapter on music in the book Worshiptainment. So please do pick that up if you're interested. By the way, Crown and Covenant and I, the publisher of these Psalters, we have a little deal going on where you can get 15% off your order if you put in the discount code Everhard in all caps 15, Everhard all caps 15, and you can get 15% off your order if you want to order the mini Psalters or if you want to get the big blue Psalter. They're all awesome. All right, that's it for me. Thank you so much for checking in this video. Love you lots. Talk to you later.